Hi guys, good evening everyone. Thank you all for joining in today. We hope that this webinar, Introduction to Blockchain, is as insightful for you guys as it is for us. And we are hopefully we have Romit on the call as well. So Romit is the founder of Zapit, and he would be taking the session today. You guys can just you can interact in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself after the session if you want to ask him questions. Also guys, make sure you take a screenshot of the session and complete the Zeely task after the session so that you can earn 100 xp for participating in the session. I hope I am completely clear about everything. And if Romit, you're okay, Romit has just left the call. He will be joining again and we can start then. Till
No,
then,
I'm
guys,
here.
if you have any questions? Oh, yeah. Romit is here, so he will be taking over. Are we good to go, Romit?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Sure. Great.
Have
So,
everyone joined, or are you still waiting for others? So, are we still waiting for others, or can you start?
yeah, I think we can start, Romit.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that intro, Sohani.
Yeah.
And yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks to all of you for joining the uh, this session of cryptocurrencies and blockchain that we're going to go through. So, yeah, as Suhani mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of Zapit Wallet. And I've been in the space for more than 10 years now. So I have pretty much a good insight about the entire cryptocurrency space and how blockchain works. So I started off, from the economics point of view, but then I also have technical expertise of how blockchains work and how to build applications on blockchain, how to develop blockchain, how to, develop cryptocurrencies, tokens, NFTs. I've built a wide variety of products in the last 10 years that I've been in this space. So, all right, let me just share my screen and then I'll just start this brief introductory session about cryptocurrencies. So we do have a Q&A session at the end, so you can just wait until I go through all the slides, and then if you have any points that you do want to mention, maybe you could just type it out or write it out, and then we can have a Q&A session in the end to go through all your doubts. Is my screen visible, Sohani?
Yeah, Romit, it's
Yeah,
visible.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right, then. So these are some of the topics that we are going to be covering today. So I'm not sure how many of you have actually taken courses like this before or sessions like this before, but there could be individuals that have never ever gotten exposure to certain information that I might be getting. So I will go through, in detail and from the historical point of view of how money itself started, how assets itself was built upon. Then we're going to get into cryptocurrencies, and I'm going to explain what blockchain is and how it works as well. Um, we're going to go through certain applications of using cryptocurrencies or blockchain, which is how crypto assets can be used in day-to-day life. And I'm going to also explain about how each and every individual can actually manage their cryptocurrencies within their portfolio. And finally, we'll for today at least we'll be finishing off with digital currencies, or you might have heard of CBDCs by governments, and how it's actually different from the cryptocurrencies that we generally know of. And as I said, in the end, we'll be having our Q&A session. So generally, if we talk about money, I think everybody just knows either paper money, or today in the modern world we use digital money. That's mostly what people know of. But to just give a brief history about how money actually evolved, just like every other technology and tool has evolved throughout human history, money has also been such tool, but it's actually been it's probably gone through the least amount of evolutions in the entire human history. It's had maybe like 4 or 5 evolutions till now. That's about it. But initial days, the only way somebody could keep track of any asset that somebody had was by direct trading. Like if you had a bag of rice had a bag of mangoes, we would exchange that directly. There was no means of storing a certain value to any of the asset. Everybody would just trade assets directly. But then that's when they realized that, okay, we probably need to be able to count what a bag of rice is worth or what a bag of mangoes is worth, because there are so many things that we are trading on a daily basis. You cannot, you can't really have an account of everything with each other, so something has to be common so that you could value everything with that common thing. So that is when metallic coins were started to use as a form of money. So you could assign a certain value to a kg of rice or a kg of mango or a liter of milk or something like that. And eventually people would just trade those metallic coins to be able to transfer value between each other. Now, of course, we all know that carrying a lot of metallic coins in your pocket is, gets really heavy. So people wanted to find different ways to handle that. And there was always issues of, being stolen, right? Like you could come across thieves and you could get stolen. So that is where the concept of banking also began, because banks offered a solution as a service. They said that, we will store your metallic coins and then we will give you a receipt that says that, okay, you have 100 gold coins or 1,000 silver coins in our bank. And then whenever you want to, let's say, make a purchase, you can give us the receipt. You can take back your metallic coins and then you can share that with, or you can transfer those metallic coins to whomever you have to. But then people quickly realize that we are all using similar banking methods. So instead of going to the bank, withdrawing your funds and then transferring it, why don't we just transfer the piece of paper that says that I own those metallic coins? So that is how paper money basically began. That's how cash started to become a thing where, so of course, the paper had to be backed by certain metallic coins in the bank. But then instead of withdrawing that, you would just transfer the paper money itself to somebody else. But the entire point of the paper was, the paper itself was not money. It was actually supposed to represent money. And I think some of you have read the history, there has been quite an effort by banks and governments to actually, de-link the paper from the metallic coins that it was supposed to be backed by. Um, and eventually, as technology grew, in the past 100, 200 years, we have started to see plastic money, which is like cards. I think everybody must have used a credit card or a debit card, where again, now you're actually storing your paper money with the bank. So people thought that, okay, paper is now the money. So we're going to keep the paper in the bank and then we're going to get a card instead. And we will use the card to make payments wherever we go, either by swiping, by tapping, however that works, or through online, things like that. Eventually, the most recent, I would say, in the past decade or two, uh, whatever advancements that we have had is because of internet. We realized that, okay, it's not just messages that we can send across internet. It's not just files that we can send across internet. We can also send money using the internet, right? So it's information anyway. So why don't we use internet to send the information about whatever value I have or I have to transfer to you? So that is where the advent of digital banking began, and we can also put cryptocurrencies and blockchain under the same category of money. So that's just a quick, brief history about money. And among all those digital currencies, we are, the most popular one, at least in the past decade, has been cryptocurrencies. Well, what is cryptocurrency, right? Like, how is it different from a regular banking? Again, it's still digital, it's still a virtual currency. The only difference is that banking and stuff, they don't really operate on something called a blockchain. Cryptocurrencies do use a blockchain. They use blockchain technology to store the funds and to transfer the funds. And for the sake of security, it uses this technology, mathematical technology called as cryptography. So that is where the term cryptocurrency comes from. Crypto stands for cryptography, and currency, of course, is because it can be used as money or in the form of money. So that's where cryptocurrency, the term cryptocurrency comes from. So one of the most important aspects about cryptocurrencies is that it has to be decentralized. When we say decentralized, what it means is there is no central entity that controls this technology. There shouldn't be a government, there shouldn't be an organization, there shouldn't be a company, there shouldn't be one individual or a group of individuals that control this technology or this currency. That is what makes it a cryptocurrency. Now, although in today's world there are thousands of cryptocurrencies, majority of them are not really decentralized, but they still get the term cryptocurrency just because they use the technology of cryptography. That's actually a false terminology that's being used. But the true term of cryptocurrency is meant for only decentralized assets. Now, of course, you can use cryptocurrency just like you can use any other currency. You can, buy goods or services with it. You can use it for investments. You can use it as a utility tool. We're going to go through that later on. And also, you can trade or invest and make money from it. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Just like any other currency, you can also use cryptocurrencies for the same reason. The only difference is that unlike other currencies like the dollar or the rupees or the ruble, which are all controlled by either reserve banks or the governments. Cryptocurrencies are not controlled. It's actually decentralized, which means any participant can, kind of get involved in the decision making, or there is nobody making the decisions. So as I said, it runs on the technology called as blockchain. So we're gonna go through what blockchain is. Um, So blockchain is basically a decentralized digital ledger. If you guys don't know what a digital ledger is, it's just a record of transactions. Any bank has a ledger. The only difference is that it's not decentralized. A bank has a centralized ledger, which only the bank controls, and then they have the ability to update those transactions, the log of transactions. Blockchain also has those. It has a list of transactions, but it's just not controlled by anyone. That's exactly why cryptocurrencies themselves have to be decentralized, because the technology blockchain itself is decentralized. And again, blockchains also use cryptography. They're actually interoperable. I mean, there's not much difference between the term cryptocurrency and the term blockchain. It's just blockchain is usually used for the technology and cryptocurrency is used for the asset. But they're one and the same. You cannot have cryptocurrency without blockchain and blockchain without cryptocurrency. That's one of the main things that you have to know. And as you can see in the screen, there are certain things that I've mentioned, which are certain principles, I would say, or terminologies that can be represented for blockchain. I've already mentioned about decentralization. What permissionlessness means is that in order to use or build on top of a blockchain, you because it's decentralized, there is no authority that can actually give you permission to use it. For example, if you want to use a bank account, you have to take permission of that bank in order to use a bank account. But if you want to use any cryptocurrency, you don't really have to take anyone's permission. You can build stuff on your own, or you can use a open source project which is available for public for free. Or you could also use a company that makes products that's based off of
नहीं
blockchain.
वो है वेबिनार है तो मैं
And because this technology is decentralized, it's also available globally.
बता
Any country,
I have to go
any
on.
continent, any
I
state,
want to
any
wait
city,
for
does not matter where you are, as long as you have access to internet, you
software
have access to blockchain. That is how that technology works. It's just connected through the internet itself.
क्या
Now, unlike banks,
जो
blockchains, the entire technology, like the technical side of
आई नो
blockchain, the way it's
तो
built,
किसके सामने खोल
is
रहा था
it actually facilitates instant transactions. I don't
फिर
know how many of you have actually tried to make an international bank transfer, but usually it takes a day, 2 days, 3 days for the money to actually go through. That's not the case with blockchains. It's actually instant, and
cool
it also costs very less
मुझे लगता है
because
कि रुक जाओ
the
तुम
entire technology
मैं
doesn't cost that
कंटिन्यू
much
करती हूँ
to
आई
run.
एम
The
रिकॉर्डिंग
infrastructure that you need to run a blockchain doesn't cost as much as it
आई
takes
डोंट नो
to run
मैं
a
करती हूँ
banking
मैं टेक्स्ट
infrastructure,
कर
basically. And because it's more of a public, everything is available for public to verify. All transactions of any blockchain are basically, I mean, there are private blockchains as well, but majority of the blockchains are still public, which means all transactions can be verified. And the reason that this is important is because that is how you can prove that blockchains work. From the very first transaction, you can actually see where every single cryptocurrency was started or where it went. Unlike banks where you can't really, you can't really prove where a certain current a cash or a digital transaction took place. With blockchains, you can actually track every single transactions. Now you might wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Well, I would say it's both. For verifiability, it's good, but for security, it's bad as long as you know how to keep yourself secure. We're gonna get to that later on. There's another concept called as immutable, which means the entire technology, the way it works is that it works on building blocks, basically. So block is nothing but it's a list of transactions. So if you have a ledger book, or if you have like a book from a bank that you receive, which has a list of all your transactions, you could think of like a page of that book as a block. And each blockchain can define what that block is. I'll just give an example. Bitcoin has a block of 1 MB, which means 1 megabyte. So 1 MB worth of transactions can exist on one block of Bitcoin. And that's usually possible on an average of every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes, there's about 1 megabyte of transactions that's being added to the Bitcoin's blockchain. Just like that, each blockchain has its own variabilities. Ethereum has its own, Avalanche has its own, Polygon has its own. So they just play around with those numbers to try and find the best suitable blockchain metric for themselves. And yeah, as I said, it's backed by cryptography, so it's very highly secure. It's used by the same technology that the any country's military would be using for encryption, which is also a part of cryptography. So here I can explain a basic structure of how a bank would work. So a bank basically issues like a ledger to each individual. You can see that there are four individuals. They're represented by their four books. Each has its own color, which indicates that it's their transactions, right? So if you make a transaction, then you're basically requesting the bank. So let's say a person A is sending funds to person B. He basically requests the bank to send his funds to person B, and all the bank has to do is just update their own books where they would deduct funds from person A and then they would add funds to person B. But then each person has a different book, which means person A can't really see person B's transactions, right? So you basically have to trust the bank. You have to ask the bank if the funds have actually been transferred or not. Whereas the blockchain works slightly different because it's decentralized. Every participant in the network has the same copy of the same book. Everybody has the same book. So if person A makes a transaction to person B, person C also has to update their own book. Now, of course, this happens through technology automatically. You don't have to manually enter anything. Through digital technology, it happens, all of it is happening automatically. But the basic thing that we all have to remember is that everybody that's involved in the, let's say, Bitcoin system, like if you're working on the Bitcoin system, everybody has a copy of all the Bitcoin transactions with them. And when you make a transaction, you are actually requesting everybody to update their books. And the reason why it says immutable is because everyone's copy has to match, even if one person's copy does not match. So let's say I take my own copy and then I write myself 1,000 bitcoins, right? The reason that the entire network will reject my transaction or my entry is because everybody else does not have that transaction. So I cannot cheat the system uh, by changing my own set of rules. Everybody else also has to agree to it. Only then this transaction works. So of course, all of you have heard of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency that was created and invented in 2009 by Satoshi Nakamoto, and that I would say is the first application of the Bitcoin blockchain technology. Bitcoin is the first application, which is basically acting as a currency. There's something called a white paper, which means it's the introductory technical paper that was released by the creator of Bitcoin, which mentions what Bitcoin is. You might go on, on the news or on YouTube, and you might try to find there are different definitions of Bitcoin. But the best definition that you can find is by the creator of Bitcoin itself. Although we don't know who it is, but we still know the documents that he released, right? And in that, it says that Bitcoin is actually defined as a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. So, going back to this is what he was trying to define, which is you can actually send payment to another person without requesting a third party, which could be a bank, which could be any financial institution. So this is the crux of the Bitcoin technology, where you shouldn't be trusting a third party to either hold your funds or to make transactions on your behalf. That is why this structure works much better, where you're not really asking permission from a third party, but you are you're able to send funds on your own to somebody else as long as you stick to the rules that is set by the Bitcoin technology. So yeah, Bitcoin is basically a digital currency. It does not have a central bank. It does not have governments that are backing it. That's exactly why it works. Although a lot of people might ask, oh, governments are not accepting Bitcoin. If governments did that, they would have shut down Bitcoin because it competes against their own currency. So the reason Bitcoin became popular and it became that big is because it could not be shut down by anyone. Now, there are certain aspects that also define what Bitcoin actually is. For something that I would say some of this is part of economics. So if you guys have studied economics, maybe some of this would make sense. For example, money should not have a infinite supply, right? What we see happening with central banks today is most of the central banks are just printing more and more and more money. What happens with that is it just creates unnecessary inflation, meaning the prices of goods that you're using your money to buy just keeps going up. The prices of bread goes up, the price of fuel goes up, everything just keeps going up because they keep printing more money. That cannot happen with Bitcoin because Bitcoin actually has a fixed supply. There is only 21 million Bitcoins that can ever be produced and not more. And that is set by the rules within the code. And nobody can actually break that. Again, somebody can try to break it. The only way they can do that is by convincing everyone else to also do that. So the same thing applies that I mentioned previously with the transactions. The same thing applies with the rest of the rules of Bitcoin as well. Originally, at least, Bitcoin was supposed to have very low fees. Now we do have other cryptocurrencies with low fees. There were certain aspects that led to Bitcoin itself having high fees. We can get to that some other time. But technically, the technology of Bitcoin itself allows you to make transactions anywhere in the world with very low fees. And it's also instant. Like you make a payment, it's instantly there. Like doesn't matter. You're sending from India to America. It takes less than a second for the payment to actually go through. Now, the technology, or I would say the system that backs this entire blockchain is called proof of work, which means in order for transactions to be added into a block, like I mentioned before, there are specialized software for that anybody can install, anybody can run. Although now it is very expensive to run those machines, but the software itself is free and anybody can use it. It's called proof of work. Um, Proof of work is basically just there is it's a very complex mathematical calculation that is done by the software, and the higher the technology of hardware that you have, the faster you can actually find the solution to that problem, to that mathematical problem. And what happens by doing that is you get to add transactions to the block, and because you are acting as that person who's you know uh, adding your, I would say, hardware to the network, you are providing your hardware to the network, you actually get a reward in the form of Bitcoin. Now, from the beginning, since there were no Bitcoins, new Bitcoins were created this way. New Bitcoins were created as you would provide your technology for adding transactions into the block. But the entire point of that was initially once the Bitcoin start to run out, because as I mentioned, there's only 21 million of them available. It is supposed to replace with the transaction fees that you would get from all the transactions that are happening within the network. Now, as I said, there's low fees, right? But there is still some fees. If you're paying a very small fee, but there's enough transactions that are taking place in the network, the miners are able to get enough fees from that. So it's basically like a service that you'd be providing. And again, I think this is a very repeating concept, which is that there is no central authority controlling Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, of course, is just one asset which is acting as a currency. But as technology grew within the crypto space, we got to know that we can use blockchain and cryptocurrencies in different ways as well. Currencies is one aspect already we have discussed. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, these all come under the concept of currencies, which means you can actually use them to make payments. You can use them to pay someone, to buy products, to buy services, and things like that. Now, of course, they don't have a fixed price, which means their price completely depends on the demand and supply of that coin itself. So sometimes what happens is it's very hard to use it for payments, because their price is varying a lot. You know, Today the price might be high, tomorrow it might be low. So it's sometimes as a merchant or as a store, or as a business, it might be hard for you to accept cryptocurrencies directly. That is why people realize that you can also have stable coins, which means you can have cryptocurrencies that represent something else. For example, you can have a coin that represents USD, or you can have a coin that represents rupees, or even gold for that matter. So they are comparatively at least more stable in their price. So that's why they're called stable coins. You can have NFTs. I think NFTs is something that we have all heard of. I think some places they only talk about NFTs being these JPEG images or music, but again, NFTs are just one type of crypto asset that can be used for multiple things, not just images or music. We have seen a lot of gaming companies also start to use NFTs for their gaming items. That's a really good use case that I've come across as well. You can also use it for real estate to indicate or to mention that, okay, this piece of land is owned by someone. You can actually represent that piece of land itself through NFTs. You can use crypto assets in the form of bills or coupons or even reward tokens. It can also be used as company shares or equities. Every single stock market asset that we know today, they can all be converted into crypto assets as well. And they get the benefit of all the advantages that I just mentioned previously. And it can also be used as any other utility token that you can come up with, basically. So how do you get started in the crypto space? Generally, we have recognized, there are two ways. The main thing that we talk about is you can actually earn cryptocurrencies. Whether you have a business, you can accept cryptocurrencies for the products or services that you're selling. If you're an employee, you can ask your your employer to pay you in cryptocurrency, or you could do freelancing. If you have any skill, you can provide a service and then earn in cryptocurrencies. I would say that is the best way of actually getting cryptocurrencies, because you don't have to pay a fee, or you don't have to do KYC, you don't have to give up your identity information, all of those things. But if you're not into that, you could also buy. If you already have money, if you want to invest, or if you want to trade, you can also use certain platforms like exchanges to be able to buy cryptocurrencies. So that is something that I think is pretty big in today's market. I would say majority of the crypto space is not really utility today. It's mostly speculation. So this is something that you might have heard of a lot, especially in the last 3, 4, 5 years, where you know maybe your friends or maybe you've heard it online, where people would have bought a certain crypto asset, the price of it would have gone really high up, and then they would have sold it for a really high profit. Now, although we don't necessarily recommend that, yeah, we do understand that there might be traders as well. So it's still possible. You could sell it buy at a lower price, you could sell it at a higher price, you could do daily trading, or you could also do long-term investment. And there are platforms for that specifically. There are cryptocurrency exchanges that give you all sorts of tools that you require, whether it's candles, whether it's indicators, whatever that's required for trading. Cryptocurrency exchanges also have that. They're very similar to stock trading. The only difference is that they're not trading stocks, they're trading cryptocurrencies. But if you want to, invest for a long term, or if you want to use them as a utility, we would always suggest to use cryptocurrency wallets for that because they are more safe. Again, actually, the problem with cryptocurrency exchanges again is that they become a third party. Just like we mentioned earlier, that crypto was not meant to be used in the way where it's centralized. Cryptocurrency exchanges are centralized where wallets are not. Wallets act as decentralized, which means they allow you to hold your own funds. It's very similar to a physical wallet or where you would store your cash, where cash is actually held in your wallet physically. Crypto wallets allow you to hold digital assets within your digital wallet. So if your wallet is on your phone, that means the funds are held or controlled directly from your phone, not from a third party company's servers or something like that. And yeah, of course, if you have your funds in the wallet, you could also use it to make payments and to pay to merchants or to pay to your friends and things like that. So now I'll give you some examples for wallets and exchanges. If you're looking for wallet, Zapit, what we have built, I would say is one of the best wallets in the market, at least now, because of all the features that we have. And we are also supporting multiple cryptocurrencies. But then there are also other wallets, like the Bitcoin.com wallet is a good one. Trust wallet is a good one. MetaMask is a bit more technical, but it's one of the most widely known wallets. So if you're a bit more technical, you could check out MetaMask as well. And for exchanges, although Binance has been having a lot of issues lately, Binance is still the biggest exchange in the world. They do have a lot of coins. There are probably thousands of coins that you could buy and sell. OK Exchange is another one, Huobi, and if you're from India, ZPay allows you to buy and sell cryptocurrencies as well. So now that we have, spoken enough about cryptocurrencies, you might be wondering, you might have heard of CBDCs, you might have heard of what uh, that governments are coming up with their own blockchain, right? So we could go through some of the points that we have at least come across, which is, CBDCs are actually not, they don't really use blockchains because they're not decentralized. They are either controlled directly by the government entities or they are controlled by the central bank or maybe by multiple banks. But still, it is still a permission system. It is still a centralized system. They don't necessarily use the same level of cryptography for security and encryption, and also they don't use they might use certain aspects of blockchain, but then it's not a full-fledged blockchain. But certain advantages that you do get from digital currencies is that yeah, they can provide you instant settlement, just like a blockchain can. Increased security because it's centralized. I mean, it's very hard to hack into a government-based system. But then it's not as much as a blockchain, I would say. And they're trying to introduce programmability as well, like smart contracting, but we still haven't seen that from any CBDC yet. So we're not sure how that's going to go. Um, so mainly what we have seen is the risks that are involved with using CBDCs. Um, the first thing that I at least would say is that there is a privacy issue, which is although publicly it cannot be traced, it can still be traced privately by the individuals that are centrally controlling it, um, which is not really a good thing, as we have seen with multiple places. Again, centrally controlled, it's always bad because it's going to go through the same issues that the banking industry has today, and because CBDCs are going to be directly be controlled by the reserve banks of each country, you can't really innovate or compete with them because they're just going to make innovation itself illegal, right? Because they're like, we control this. You cannot really build a competing product. We are just going to make that illegal. And the major issue that I would say is censorship, which is if they don't really like you or they don't like what you're doing, they can restrict your transactions. They can freeze accounts. They can monitor every single transaction that you make. Now, of course, they're going to say it's because of terrorist financing or money laundering or things like that. But we've all seen that, that has been used badly by certain entities in certain countries as well. Um, so if you have issues with this, if you see that this is a really big issue, I would suggest at least sticking to certain of your portfolio being in the cryptocurrencies versus the digital currency space. We're gonna just, you can take a look at few differences between cryptocurrencies and digital currencies. Crypto is decentralized, CBDCs are centralized. There's a lot of privacy in cryptocurrency, although it is still a public blockchain, it is still everything is public. As long as you do not link your address to your identity, it's called pseudonymous, which means it's still private. As long as people do not know that it's your address, they don't really know that it's you making the transactions. Whereas in CBDC, although you may have privacy from the public, from the right parties, you still don't have any privacy. One issue that we generally see in cryptocurrency is that it's very volatile. The price is, always varying a lot, but CBDCs are generally stable in that sense. Cryptocurrencies are also censorship resistant, which means you can't censor any transaction that happens on a cryptocurrency or a blockchain. For example, nobody can really stop a Bitcoin transaction. If I want to send Bitcoin to person B, whoever that person B is, there is no party in the world that can actually stop that from happening. Whereas in CBDCs, whenever they want, for whomever they want, they can actually create that censorship. And as I mentioned, that there are only 21 million Bitcoins. Nobody can just come up and change the monetary policies within cryptocurrencies. Whereas with CBDCs, it goes by the whims of the governments or the central banks. Whenever they want to change it, they can just change it, and then all the rules of that system is changed instantly. So these are the basic differences that we see between cryptocurrencies and digital currencies. And I'll actually end with a quote by the creator of Bitcoin or the blockchain technology itself. Um, so he said that the root problem with conventional currency is all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, which is basically inflation. But the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust. Banks must be trusted to hold our money and transfer it electronically, but they lend it out in waves of credit bubbles, which is basically loans, with barely a fraction in reserve. We have to trust them with our privacy, trust them not to let identity thieves drain our accounts. So this is he's basically talking about certain problems that he saw within the entire financial ecosystem. And that is exactly why Bitcoin was created. It was to solve all these problems. And hopefully, we are continuing to build products that continue this vision. So I would say that's where even me and the entire idea of Zapit comes in. And with that, I guess we can move over to Q&A. I hope this was a good session for you all. It was a very brief one. We can, if this is something that you guys have liked, or if you want more information about, we can definitely have more sessions like this. But before we get to that, maybe we can just go through certain questions that you all might have.
Thank you for the session, Romit. I think it was very insightful for me and as for everybody in this call. We do have a few questions already in the chat box, so maybe if you can go through them and for everyone, if you can unmute and ask your questions or drop them in the chat box, that would be this would be the right time. Yeah.
Yeah, please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask any questions that you may have.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi, tell me. Rahul, tell
Yes,
me.
sir. I am Rahul. I am from Tamil Nadu. I had a question, sir.
Sure, sure. Go ahead.
If everyone shares the transaction history,
Mhm.
it would become a huge storage space, no, sir?
So yes, so this is exactly where we can actually see how it depends on which which kind of software you're running, right? So there are, for example, if you're running Zapit as a wallet, right? So we actually,
Okay,
as a
sir.
company, we hold that storage. We run that storage ourselves. We don't let our
Okay, sir.
users run their own storages because, of course, not everybody has to run it, right? But as a
Okay,
company,
sir.
we decide to do it, but individual users don't have to do it. And because we are a company, we can actually afford, high storages. But the entire point there is that you don't have to run it if you don't want to run it or you cannot run it. But let's say you do
Okay, sir.
want to be part of the system or you do want to run it, then there is the freedom to be able to do it. That's more important here.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So yes, the storage does go up, but as we know, the technology of storage also keeps improving every year or two, right? Today, I think you can get a TB of storage for less than 1,000 rupees, which is not a lot, considering I think at least more than half of the world can at least easily afford to have a TB of storage. And in the last 10 years of Bitcoin's existence, it has, I think, crossed 600 or 700 GB in the last 10 years. So that's not really a lot.
Yeah. Good afternoon,
Hello, good
Romit.
afternoon. Yes, tell me.
Yeah. I just have just a question to ask.
Sure, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Is there a chance that blockchain can solve the problem of inflation in the next 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. Well, I wouldn't
Yeah.
speculate on the time period itself, but I would say that it already has solved the problem of inflation. What I mean by that is, if you have constantly been using Bitcoin for the past 10 years, every single asset has become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper for you. Like if you actually if you just do the math, right? For example, 5 years back, if you had one Bitcoin, I don't remember what the price was, but it was few thousand, maybe just in the early $1,000, right? So
Mm.
you could buy items for one Bitcoin, you could buy, fewer items. But today, with that same one Bitcoin, you can actually buy much more. So there is a reverse inflation or a deflation that's happening with Bitcoin and most of the other cryptocurrencies at least. So yes, I would say it has already solved that problem. It's just that it only makes sense if you use it on a day-to-day basis. If you use it
Okay.
to earn and if you use it to spend in your daily life, then yes, you will see its advantages.
Okay. Yeah. And I have a question also. Uh,
Sure, sure.
um. Okay. Did you guys they have in the intensity of creating an NFT channel maybe later? Then aside that, would you build up a gaming NFT gaming stuffs like that?
Well, right now we are primarily a payments company, so our entire technology, our entire back end, everything is built for payments, and all our services are also geared towards payments. So I would say unless and until it makes sense for something like that, we wouldn't want to look into that. As I said, we are into utility space, but we are not in the gaming space for sure. We are not in the gaming space for now. There are other people building games, and what we are doing is games do require wallet services. They do require payment infrastructure. They do require wallet infrastructure, right? So that is what we are providing. So that is where we
Okay.
would come in. Yeah. So if you are interacting with any game and you do get a NFT as an asset from a gaming company, you would still need to store that somewhere, right? So that is where Zapid would come in. So we would actually, it would be better for us to partner with gaming companies instead of building our own games.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
sure. Thank you for your question. Crypto nature, is that you raising your hand? You want to ask a question?
Yes, I want to do.
Sure,
Good
sure. Go ahead.
afternoon or good evening. Good afternoon, good
Good
evening,
evening.
depending on where this is from. So
Yes,
yeah.
to you as
So
well.
looking at the fact, thank you very much. Looking at the fact that Zapit is a payment platform, do you guys have intention of having more like a POS service that will
Mhm.
actually make transaction much easier? Yeah. So Do you guys have intention of building payments platform, like let's say a POS machine that,
Yes.
okay, let's say more like ATM, or like say a POS machine whereby you can give to businesses, both small or larger businesses, to actually use cryptocurrency transaction using
Yes,
those
we are
methods?
already working on something like that. Although, just installing the app on your Android or iOS device itself can act as a POS machine to start accepting payments. For let's say smaller stores or smaller vendors, smaller merchants can already use our app to receive payments. But for a bigger business or for businesses that have multiple branches and things like that, we are working on a POS application. We are not yet sure about the device itself. That would be a bigger um, task, of course. But yes, we are already working on a POS-like service that any merchant can use. That will be live maybe in a month or two.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, for now, looking at the fact that it's not ready, is there any plans to actually link the account to, shall I say, take for instance, I have a business, right? So,
Mhm.
and I already have a PCH QR code, which it can be scanned and then I receive payments. But then my cashier does not have access to my account, which it doesn't make sense that he needs to call me to confirm always whenever someone scans it or stuff like that. Is there any a way, or are you guys working on any system whereby I can link it, that I can just see it from visiting a website without actually having direct access to my account? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, so you mean that, yeah, you can always do it with a QR code like a standee or like a sticker, right? So if you want to accept payments, whether on your online or offline, you do get a QR code from Zapit. You can take either a screenshot of it or an image of it. We will probably have like printout materials as well for that. You could use that to receive payments, and then you don't have to give access to your account itself. Is that what you're trying to ask?
Exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so that is already possible. You can already do that. So the QR code is for public use. So if you go to the Receive tab within Zapit or any other wallet for that matter, the QR code that shows up is for the public, for it to be shown to the public. So you can actually store that. You can circulate that around the internet, and it's totally fine. Your account is totally safe. That the only thing that people can do with that is only send you money. That's it. They can only send you crypto with that.
Yeah. Can you, Romit?
Yes. Who was that?
Yeah, I just want to commend you guys. You guys are doing a wonderful job. Like this is the first time I'm applying for a blockchain stuff. So I really commend you guys. Kudos to you guys.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the call and giving your questions as well.
Hi, Romit.
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah. So,
Yogesh. Yes,
yeah,
Yogesh, tell me.
as you were speaking about deflation,
Mhm.
how Bitcoin is like helping in deflation or something. I didn't get that concept actually. So, also
Yes,
I heard
sure.
a
I
term
can
like
explain that.
Bitcoin has an halving in every 4 years. So, how
Mhm.
that exact time is is it predicted or is it like hard coded in
Yes.
the chain code or like?
Yes, it is hard coded in the code. Uh, so it's about 4 years. So it's not exactly accurate to 4 years. So basically, how it's defined is that it's based on the blocks. It's the number of blocks. So as we know that each block has to average to 10 minutes. So if it's like 1,000 blocks, then that's about 10,000 minutes, right? So you can calculate, okay, how many months or how many years that is, and that is how 4 years is decided upon. And yeah, so this amount of blocks, yeah, the code says that okay, the amount of coins that the miners would get once it crosses this block, they will get only half of that. So that is what halving means. Um,
Okay,
and
so is
sorry,
that
I
only
forgot your
happening
first
in
question.
Bitcoin only? Like,
Bitcoin based, it depends. Again, it depends on each cryptocurrency. Some cryptocurrencies have that, some don't. Bitcoin has it, Bitcoin Cash has it, Dash has it, Litecoin has it. But I'm not sure of all the coins. There are thousands of coins. I've not done
yeah,
enough
just for
research to know
reference,
about all the
if we
coins.
say
But
if we
yes.
are using Ethereum, so is it also like helping in deflationary aspects of like? Um,
I think Ethereum works slightly differently. I'm not sure if they have, because especially they went from proof of work to proof of stake.
okay.
They have changed their economics a bit, but they also have this burning. They're actually inflationary. They're not deflationary. What I mean by that is they don't have a limit. Ethereum does not have a higher limit as to how many coins can be minted. That's a continuous process. And that's because they also have something called burning, which means they destroy the coins.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I'll just go through some questions in the chat. What does layer one mean in blockchain? The base blockchain, the base blockchain technology itself is called layer one. Uh, you don't really have to worry about that because layer two, layers don't actually make sense as long as the blockchain works. It just means that layer two just means that you can lock certain coins and then you can build another technology on top of that where you can make maybe faster transactions or higher transactions, or maybe you can have your own set of limits. As long as those coins are locked in the layer two, you can do whatever you want. So Yogesh, I guess you asked, in order to tackle inflation, why is the Bitcoin
Yeah,
halving
yeah.
period is only four
Recently,
years?
I asked. Yeah.
Why not 2 or 3 years? Okay, so there are certain numbers that were chosen by the creator of Bitcoin as an arbitrary number. We are not sure because some things are not really mentioned. For example, we don't know why 21 million, right? That was just chosen as a random number. We don't know why 10 minutes for each block. That's again an arbitrary number. We don't know why 50 Bitcoins initially for the first 4 years and then half after that. Why is it half, right? Why is it not quarter or something like that? We are not sure because these things were not specifically mentioned why. It's just certain rules were just set up by the creator and then it was just followed by others. What are your thoughts on features like the Gitcoin passport? I'm not sure what Gitcoin passport is. Okay, is that all the questions from the session that you guys have? All right, cool then. So I guess it was a good session. Suhani, maybe you can take over and end the session.
Sure. Thank you so much, Romit, for joining in today and taking this session. I think it was much needed, and also like it has been postponed a few times. So thank you for joining in today, Romit, and also thank you guys to for being a part of the session. Hopefully, we can do more such sessions, and we can expect good participation. This was very insightful for all of us. And do we have another question? Crypto Nature, you just raised your hand.
So yeah, I do. It was supposed to be my last question before I paused. So it still goes to Mr. Romit, and the question goes like this: looking at the fact that this program is meant targeted towards students on campus, does Zapit have any future plan of having what we call like a campus store, whereby student can actually get to interact with cryptocurrency for sure, real life? Because then student actually buy stores, right? So, but I feel if Zapit have like a crypto store whereby they can actually use their cryptocurrency to actually buy real goods, to actually boost their understanding of using crypto to actually make real life transaction. Does Zapit have any future plans of having campus stores so that students can actually make real transactions with time?
I'm not sure about stores, but we do have certain things that we have planned for the campus program. I guess we'll be hearing a lot more in the future from Sohani. It's a long-term thing that we are looking into. So there will be a lot of things, a lot of events, a lot of activities that we have planned, which involves individuals and students and everything getting involved directly with cryptocurrencies, actually using it and seeing it live. In all those events. So yes, there are a lot of things that we have planned, and we will unveil them one by one. So stay tuned for that. so that you can also participate, and maybe there will be rewards and awards and things like that.
All right, guys. I think that was that were all the questions. We are also a little over time, so let's end the session now. Thank you all for joining in the call today. Hope you all have a great evening, and thank you, Romit, for being a part of this. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Sony, for hosting this and managing this. It was done pretty well. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have more sessions. Maybe we can get into more into like deeper aspects of blockchain as well if you guys are interested. Yeah, please let Suhani know however you guys want to do it, and we'll definitely have those in the future. Thanks, guys.
Yes. Okay, guys. Thank you so much.